All right, let's talk about standard costing. I know, it sounds a bit dry, but stick with me. Think of it less like accounting and more like a high-tech health check for your business. It's the ultimate tool that tells you exactly what's going on under the hood, good or bad. Okay, so let me paint a picture for you. You've just finished a killer quarter. Sales numbers are through the roof, everyone's high-fiving, but then you look at the P&L statement, and your profits, they've tanked. How on earth does that happen? It's that classic, super frustrating business mystery, right? Well, the answer is actually hiding right there, in your own data. The clues? They're called variances. So for the next few minutes, put on your detective hat with me. We're going to follow these clues, these variances, and crack the case of the missing profits. Ready? Here's our game plan. First up, we'll ask, was it a bad plan or bad execution? Then we'll dig into why sales goals were missed. After that, we become factory floor detectives. We'll also touch on costs, curves, and context, and wrap it all up with a quick fire recap. Let's get into it. Okay, so first things first, we have to figure out the most basic question in any investigation. When something goes wrong, who do you look at? Is the problem with the original plan, the strategy itself, or did someone mess up along the way? I love this analogy because it makes it so clear. A planning variance? That's like your GPS giving you a totally wrong map. You were never going to get there, no matter how well you drove, because the plan itself was broken from the start. But an operational variance? Well, that's when the map was perfect, but the driver got lost. The plan was solid, the execution just wasn't there. And here are the key terms you absolutely have to know. A planning variance pops up when your initial standards were just off. Maybe you guessed the wrong price for steel. And the key thing here, it's considered uncontrollable by the manager on the ground. They can't help it if the budget was built on bad info. Now, an operational variance is the opposite. That's all about inefficiency. It's controllable. It's about how the team performed against a standard that was actually fair. Okay, so now that we've got that core idea down, plan versus people, let's take our investigation over to the sales team. Remember, they hit their numbers, but profits were down. Something's definitely fishy here, so let's dig in. You see, revenue is a tricky number. It's not just one thing. It's a story written by two different authors, price and volume. And you can have a bestseller from one while the other is writing a total flop. We've got to pull them apart to see the real picture. Let's start with the sales volume variance. This one is all about quantity. Think about that MyGlam company from the case study. The manager there needed to know one thing. Did we sell more or fewer units than we planned? This variance isolates just that. It strips out the price and just looks at the raw number of units sold versus the budget. And then, of course, you have the other half of the story, the sales price variance. This is super simple. Did we sell our stuff for the price we expected? Or did we have to slash prices with discounts? Maybe we got lucky and sold for more. This variance tells you exactly how much your selling price helped or hurt your bottom line. Okay, now let's get into the nitty-gritty. A sales price variance can happen for lots of reasons. Unexpected discounts, a competitor changing their prices, you name it. But here is an absolutely critical point, and this comes straight from the source material. If you fail to satisfy demand because you had production problems, that is not a price variance. That's a volume variance. You didn't sell less because your price was wrong. You sold less because you didn't have the stuff to sell. Huge difference, and a classic exam trap. All right, our investigation is leaving the sales office and heading right into the heart of the action, the factory floor. This is where the magic happens, where raw materials and hours of work become actual products. And let me tell you, it is a gold mine for finding variances. So check this out. We've got this case study about the Ace Toy Company. They had this massive, unfavorable labor efficiency variance. What does that mean? Basically, their people were taking way too long to make the toys. Now, the easy thing to do is blame the workers, right? But when they dug deeper, the real villain was something else entirely. Their machines were poorly maintained. They kept breaking down, which meant the workers were just standing around, waiting. It wasn't their fault at all. This table is your best friend for understanding labor variances. First, you've got the labor rate variance. Think of this as the price tag on your labor. Did you pay more per hour than you planned? Maybe you had to pay overtime or bring in some senior, more expensive staff. But notice what doesn't cause a rate variance. Poor supervision.
Bad bosses cause wasted time, and that's an efficiency issue, not a rate issue. And on the flip side, for efficiency, things like the demographic makeup of your workforce, totally irrelevant. That doesn't impact how efficiently the work gets done.
Okay, let's move on to materials. The material usage variance is really straightforward. It asks one simple question. For everything we made this month, did we use the amount of material we thought we would? Or did we use more, or maybe less? It's purely about the quantity of stuff we used.
So what causes this variance? Well, it could be anything from a new, more efficient machine that reduces waste, to maybe buying cheaper, lower quality materials that result in more scrap. But, and this is the key takeaway you need to tattoo on your brain, the price you paid for the materials has nothing to do with the usage variance. Zero. Zilch. That's a completely separate variance, a totally different clue in our investigation.
All right, we've been deep in the weeds looking at specific clues. Let's zoom out for a second and look at the bigger picture. There are a few major concepts that influence all of these variances, and we need to understand them to get the full story. Let's talk about fixed costs. Imagine your factory rent. That bill is the same every single month, right? It doesn't matter if you make one widget or a million widgets. But here's the magic. As this chart shows, the more you produce, the less rent each individual widget has to pay for. You're spreading that same cost over more units, so the cost per unit goes down. It's a super fundamental idea. Then there's something called the learning curve effect. You know this from your own life, right? The first time you do something, you're slow and clumsy. The 100th time, you're a pro. It's the exact same on the factory floor. So when you roll out a new product, you should expect an unfavorable labor efficiency variance at first. But as the team gets more practice, they get faster, and that variance should flip to favorable. It's crucial context. And finally, we have the total fixed overhead variance. Think of this as the final bill for all your fixed costs. All period long, you're applying a little bit of overhead to each product based on a guess, a predetermined rate. At the end, this variance just tells you how good your guess was. Did you apply too much overhead or not enough compared to what you actually spent? That's all it is. Okay, we've collected all the clues. Now it's time for a rapid-fire recap. Let's treat this like a doctor's diagnostic chart. You see a symptom, I'll give you the most likely diagnosis. First up, symptom. Your labor efficiency variance is unfavorable. Your people are taking too long. Diagnosis. Before you point any fingers at your team, go check the machines. Just like we saw with the Ace Toy Company, faulty equipment is a classic hidden culprit. Next, symptom. Your sales price variance is unfavorable. You didn't get the price you wanted. Diagnosis, hold on. Before you blame the sales team for giving too many discounts, look back at the factory. Were you even able to make enough product to meet demand? Because if not, that's a volume problem, not a price problem. Super important distinction. And that's a wrap on our investigation. But here's the most important thing I want you to walk away with. Variance analysis, it's not about playing the blame game. It's not about finding a scapegoat. It's a powerful tool for finding answers. It helps you figure out what went wrong so you can actually fix it and get better. It turns boring old data into a treasure map for improving your business. So the only question left for you is, where are you going to start digging?